welcome to I-24 News Defense Magazine. I'm Alon Ben David with your weekly review of security, intelligence and strategic affairs. In this edition, following the weekend attacks, we examine Israel's ability to prevent terror attacks carried out by Jews. The Taliban appoints a new leader after confirming that its popular leader Muhammad Omar is dead. And violence between Turkey and the Kurdish rebels intensifies following Ankara's realignment on Syria. Let's begin. It's been 4 days since the murder of 18-month-old Ali Dawabsha in the Palestinian village of Duma, and the suspected Jewish killer or killers have not yet been caught. The graffiti left behind at the scene of the deadly arson was the calling card of the so-called price tag attack, acts of terrorism carried out by right-wing extremists seeking to undermine the Israeli state through generating friction with the Palestinians. Israel's record in preventing attacks carried out by Jews is far from perfect. Mati Sinbar and Shachar Peled have the story.
Tapuach village in the heart of the West Bank. The Jewish settlement here for years housed a group linked to the radical ideology of the Israeli extreme nationalist right. But since then, this group has gradually left to go to the hills above the village. This is where we find the Perlman family. In 2010, they were in the focus of Israeli security services for suspected terrorist activity. Since then, the case has been closed without charge, and facing the drama of the murdered baby from Duma village, it's hard to find compassion from them.
Nobody knows yet what happened in Duma. When you're 16 or 17, you think you're on top of the world. I know because I did too. I don't think this can help us. On the contrary, even though it's bad that this baby was burned, and if no one had reacted, if Netanyahu hadn't apologized, well, I mean, we also have among us madmen and those who must go to prison. That's it. No need to bow down and kiss their feet.
This is the home base of the youth of the Tapuach hilltops, a tent in the middle of nature. It's while going in their direction that we see we're not welcome. This youth blocked the route. We then try another approach, but without success. He avoids us and tries hiding his face before taking his phone and moving away. On the line is Moshe Orbach, who was placed in administrative detention and is now assigned a residence by the Internal Security Services. He is accused of having written and distributed a document on the need to attack non-Jewish property and people. If not everything is yet clear on the firebombing on a Palestinian home in Duma, one of the leaders of Tapuach village refuses to be stigmatized. For him, if the attack is the work of Jewish terrorists, it has nothing to do with the Jewish residents of the West Bank.
We are not concerned by these criminal acts. If there are criminals, and I repeat, the investigation needs to prove it. It's up to the government to deal with the problem. We came here to settle and not be criminals. If young people of the hilltop come to see me and tell me they did something reprehensible, I would tell them it's forbidden, from a legal, religious and a moral point of view.
Meanwhile, to begin combating Jewish extremism, the Israeli government approved the administrative detention of those suspected of involvement in terror activities.
And we are joined now by Leo Ackerman, former senior officer at Israel's Shin Bet, Israel's internal security agency. Thank you for joining us. When we talk about Jewish terrorism, what are we talking about? An organization, individuals, how many?
Well, the difference between the Jewish terror, so-called, and the Palestinian one is the capability of their organizational structure. Because those guys that living on the hilltops and executing all those actions against Arabs are not organized. One should understand that maybe they have and share the same ideology, but there is no one commander or one leader that leads them. They are not taking any instructions from no headquarters and not giving any
so that's the reason why the Shin Bet failed in the last years to solve most of those cases?
Well, I don't know if the Shin Bet failed, because there are a lot of actions that the Shin Bet succeed to foil before. I think that by the information getting from the ISA, in the last 2 years, the numbers of the attacks by Jewish on Arabs reduced. But, however, it's not important, because when you're seeing such an action like occurred in the Duma village, I'm very worried from that situation. I think that the structure of their organization, those guys are working in groups of 3, 4, 5 guys maximum. So the Shin Bet knows about all of them. I think that from the point of view of the intelligence, the Shin Bet can point out all the names and places where are staying all those guys. But
is unable to produce evidence? Legal evidence?
Yes, he finds it's very hard to bring evidence to a terror attack. One should understand that the big you know, the big difference between the Jewish and the Palestinian in the courts are the definition of terror. Because when you bring a terrorist, a Palestinian terrorist, into court, in Israel, they judge him upon other rules, not as they judge the Jewish one.
But so now when the cabinet approves more legal tools for the Shin Bet, like administrative arrests, would that enable them to at least stop this phenomena?
Well, those tools are already exist today. It's nothing new. I think that what's new is maybe the ability of the Shin Bet to use them against the population of those guys in the top hills. I think that if most of those youngest will be in administrative detention, it will reduce their activities because they will be there and they won't be outside and they won't be able to execute any actions.
Ackerman, former Shin Bet officer, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
The announcement this week that the Taliban's longtime leader, Muhammad Omar, was dead has opened a new chapter in the Afghan-based group's history and launched a successive battle. The following report has the details.
Reports surfaced last week that Mullah Mohammed Omar, the leader of the Taliban and a man wanted by the U.S. for a reward of $10 million, is dead. Omar was also an al-Qaeda ally and a known supporter of former al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, and allegedly helped hide bin Laden in the years before the September 11th attacks. When the U.S. invaded Afghanistan following 9/11 and the Taliban was overthrown, Omar went into hiding and has not been seen since.
We have seen reports about Mullah Omar's death. Rumors about his death have been circulating for some time now.
As soon as we get any more accurate information or authentication of those reports, we're going to let the media and the people of Afghanistan know about it.
Since then, information has been confirmed that Omar died in April 2013. News of his death comes at a difficult time for the Taliban, which is deeply divided over whether to pursue peace talks with the Afghan government with the aim of ending the 14-year war. The Taliban was quick to appoint a new leader, Mullah Mohammed Mansour. Some say Mansour was responsible for hiding news of Omar's death 2 years ago.
I think Mullah Mansour has been the deputy to Mullah Omar, and he has been running the affairs of Taliban ever since, and he has been hiding the truth that Mullah Omar died. We have to wait and watch his performance, but obviously there are doubts about his leadership.
Apparently, the family of Omar are not supporting Mansour's appointment as leader. Omar's younger brother and son were 2 of 12 Taliban figures who walked out of a leadership meeting last week when Mansour's new role in the movement came up in conversation. Some say this could lead to the disintegration of the group.
The movement will disintegrate into factions, and it will be very, very difficult to keep it as a cohesive force as it has existed since the mid-90s.
The confirmation of Omar's death raises questions about what the future of the Taliban will look like and whether it will remain one strong, cohesive force as it was with Mullah Mohammed Omar as its leader.
Michael Semple, a visiting professor at the Institute for the Study of Conflict Transformation and Social Justice at Queen's University in Belfast, is one of the top experts on the Taliban, having served as the UN and EU's special advisor on the group. Mr. Semple, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
What do we know about the new leadership of the Taliban? Are they still a viable force?
The Taliban certainly are still a viable force. We know about the person, Akhtar Mohammed Mansour, who has claimed the leadership in the wake of Mullah Omar, but we also know that he faces challenges in a way that the leadership has never been challenged before. Akhtar Mohammed Mansour has been a senior member of the movement. He served as a minister in their government in the late 90s. He has been the acting head, although not declared as such, for the past 3 years. So he has been presiding over the insurgency in the recent years. I know that a lot of people consider him a pragmatist. I've certainly listened to Afghans who worked with him when he was a minister who said, yes, I mean, if he's no more unreasonable than other ministers you get to work with. But the fact is the Taliban have escalated their violence in Afghanistan over the past couple of years, and he has presided over it. But the key point about Mansour is not in a sense who he is. It is the fact that for 20 years, the Taliban movement never experienced any major split. And this set them apart from just about any other military or political organization in Afghanistan. Movements there are typically riven with splits. But now that Taliban have been released from their oath to Mullah Omar, we see the emergence of open factionalism, open challenges to the person who says he is the new leader. We have this unprecedented position of a veteran of the movement going on TV and saying that he does not accept, and that other senior figures do not accept the appointment of the new leader. This group has appointed a spokesman who is starting to talk about a new leadership selection process. So this really brings the Taliban into uncharted territory.
What is Pakistani ISI involvement in what's going on in Afghanistan?
Well, you ask one of the most important and most difficult questions of all, because the ISI is a covert intelligence agency which does not advertise its actions or its relationships. So there's an awful lot of speculation about it. I think that there's a general understanding amongst analysts that of course it is important. Everybody knows that the Taliban depend upon a presence in Pakistan as a secure rear base for conducting their insurgency, and the assumption is that Pakistan intelligence services have got sufficient watch and control over their territory, that kind of thing can't happen without the blessing of state security services. But one of the interesting aspects of the new situation between Pakistan and Afghanistan is that the Afghan president has really been banking on Pakistani influence to bring the Taliban to the negotiating table. So whereas for many years we had the prospect of Afghan administrations, particularly President Karzai, condemning Pakistani interference in working with the Taliban, we now have the prospect of an Afghan government more or less asking for more of it, saying, yes, please engage with the Taliban and get them to do the right thing.
Mr. Semple, thank you very much for the interview.
Most welcome.
Washington's persuasion of Ankara to join the anti-ISIS coalition was made at the expense of the Kurdish people. Turkey is launching attacks on Kurds in Iraq, preventing help to the Kurds in Syria, and is conducting massive arrests of Kurds inside Turkey. We are now joined by freelance journalist Vager Saadullah from Duhok in the Kurdish region of Iraq. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Is the Turkish campaign directed more against ISIS or against the Kurds?
I would not say terrorism, but the fight between PKK and Turkey in last days did not leave any option for PKK. Tens of civilians were victims, and also 1,000 acres of land are burned. Many of those villages are more than 60 kilometers far from Turkish borders. That's why the people in Kurdistan region are asking the two sides to leave these populated areas, because in the last before 3 or 4 days the Turkish airstrikes killed dozens and there is casualties among civilians in Kurdistan region. We are asking Turkey to stop this terroristic approach killing civilians in southern Kurdistan. We ask both sides to leave our region that we are affected. We are in fight with ISIS. The Baghdad suspended the salaries and budget from KRG. We have enough problems, enough issues that another problem and another issues far from our region, and it's not belong to the people here. Came and the people in Kurdistan region became more victims.
Mr. Saadullah in Kurdistan, Iraq, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for. Be sure to visit us again next week for another edition of I-24 News Defense. For all the latest headlines, log on to www.i24news.tv. Have a safe night from Jaffa Port.